All right, I'm going to get us started. This is the third session of our big 10-week class. And today it's going to be on using a phone as your camera. Surprisingly, when we did the little online survey, we found about half of the people almost um, that were in this class were using their phones as their primary camera, or at least the camera that they use quite often. So I wanted to make sure that everybody had an idea just how to basically take pictures on your phone. We're not going to give you a complete iPhone class today or a complete Android class today. We're going to give you an overview of how to use an iPhone or how to use an Android phone to take some pictures. We're going to keep it as simple as possible, and quite hopefully, in a week or two, uh, at least shortly, we'll be able to follow up with some online classes that will go into much greater detail on how to use an iPhone or an Android phone. And things should work out. So we're going to get started. And what we're going to do today is a two-part kind of thing. Grace is going to run over how you use an iPhone with you. And I don't want the Android people to leave or be terribly bored, because sometime before this is over with, somebody's going to say to you, "Oh, gosh, how do you use an iPhone? How do you use an Android phone? Can I do this on my phone?" If you watch this video, you might have somewhat an idea. Um, but I'm just going to start off. I'm going to turn it over to Grace. It's her show. She's probably going to spend half an hour so with you going over how you use an iPhone. So, Grace, it's all yours. I'm shutting off.
You're shutting off. Okay, well, hi everybody. I'm sure most of you have seen me around the Camera Club. Now you're seeing me in Portland, Oregon, and in a guest bedroom, which is a little different. Okay, so we're going to start off with just a few basic things of an iPhone. So what I have, and I'm showing you what I have, is an 11 Pro. It has, there's three cameras on it. And so the first thing I'm going to do is comment to you about how do you turn on the camera. Well, actually, the first thing I'm going to do is to share my camera with you so that you can actually see what I'm doing. Okay. And it doesn't take very long for me to do this. I just have to share it with my computer. Whoops, cancel. That wasn't what I wanted to do. Okay, there you see okay, there is my screen. That is my computer. And you can see right here, I have settings, I have my camera down here. So what I'm going to do is just show you a couple of things in the settings. And if you're new, you may not have ever gone to the settings to see anything. So I'm just going to tap this settings button that's right here and open that up. And down here is one called General, right there. And I'm going to look at that. And you may have done this recently because Apple really wanted you to upgrade your system. So that's where you get software updates right there. But I'm going to tap About. And this is where you would go to find what version of the software you're using, what your phone is. But I want you to just be aware of down here is where you find out how big, how much memory you bought with your phone, and how much memory is left. Because if this gets down to where it says megabytes, you're out of memory. And so you're going to need to start deleting stuff. This will tell you how many photos you have, how many videos you have, and so forth. So just a little bit of a general thing that's under, again, that's under General. under About. Okay, in the settings, back to the settings, you scroll way down, way, way, way down until you come to one that says camera. Okay, so I'm going to give you a minute to do that. And if you press on camera, you're going to get a few things, just a few things that you can set for your camera. And the top one right up here, I'm going to tap on, gives you two choices of what kind of format you want to use. High efficiency is an Apple proprietary thing that compresses your photos and doesn't, and they use up less space. However, most compatible, I think you want to leave it because that is what you can share with everybody. So just make sure it's set with most compatible. Okay, and I'm going to say how many of you shoot video with your phones, and I'm going to guess a fair number of you do. And so I'm going to look at the video recording right here. I'm going to tap that. And these iPhones are absolutely unbelievable for video. The professionals are using them in Hollywood, but you know, we're not that. And if you're only going to shoot video that you're going to share or look at on your phone, your iPad, your computer screen, this one right up here, 720p is all you need. And that will be very sufficient for anything you will want to share. Okay. If you are really going to share yours on a big screen TV, then you might want to boost it up to 1080p. But notice down here, you can see how much room it takes up for those videos. And especially if you're running out of some space, you're going to want to keep it down to 720 so that you're not going to max out your space. So that's all you really need to know about videos. Okay. Now my camera happens to be able to record in stereo, so of course I would want that turned on. Not all cameras do. Barcodes, if you are going to be looking at those barcodes and they finding information, you could turn that on. But the one I want you to see right down here is grid. Now, I'm sure that in your classes so far, somebody has mentioned the rule of thirds. Can't imagine somebody hasn't. The rule of thirds has two horizontal lines, two vertical lines that intersect. If you turn the grid on, you will then have little hairline verticals and horizontal lines in your viewfinder or in your on your screen. And that's really most helpful. That's the only other one that I think is important right there. So that's basically it for the settings. So I'm going to get out of the settings now. Now, the question I have for you is, how many times have you gone to take a picture and by the time you got the code put in and your camera open, you missed the shot? Okay, so what I'm going to do right now, I am going to put my phone on a tripod so that I'm not moving it around when I do this. And I'm going to go to my lock screen. So this is my camera off. There's my lock screen. And it has facial recognition, which it did. But do you see this little camera right down here? Come on. It doesn't stay on very long. That little camera right there. If you push and hold, come on, push and hold, it opens the camera. That fast. Okay, let me try that again. I'm going to shut it off. Go dark. Come on. There we go. There's my lock screen. push and hold, and the camera opened. Now, there's a second method from your lock screen. Okay, here's my lock screen. I'm going to swipe across. Now, let me show you what I did. Okay, so there's my lock screen. I put my finger here on the right and I just swiped, whoops, that wasn't what I wanted to do. I swiped across, okay? Are you still seeing my whole, yeah, you're still seeing it. Okay, and for those of you who need a flashlight occasionally, the same thing is for the flashlight. You can push it and the flashlight comes on. And that's very handy sometimes, okay? So those two methods for getting the camera open. Now, when you do that, the camera is open, but your phone is not unlocked. You can't access anything else on that phone except the camera. But that's what you're wanting it to do, is you're wanting that camera open quickly, okay? So then let's talk about how do you take a picture? And I'm sure you're going to say, right, she's asking me how to take a picture. It's that big white button down there at the bottom. Of course, it's that big white button at the bottom. Okay, however, and I can't show you this, okay. Hold a second. Yes, I can. I have another phone. It's those two volume buttons on the side, okay? On the left-hand side of your phone, there's a volume up and a volume down button. Each one of those, either one of those, will take a picture. So if you squeeze one, when the camera's open, it'll go click and you've got a picture, okay? I can do that right now. I'm going to squeeze my volume down button. Okay, and then if I touch this little square right here, that is my picture that I just took. And you can see there are some other pictures there. And then I can tap up right up here in this arrow and go back to the camera and take some more pictures. So volume up and volume down. All righty. Now, but wait, there's more. How many of you, I'm sure all of you, recognize the headphones? And I'm not sure, I'm hoping that you folks can actually see me over there on the side. But your headphones, mine are all scrambled up, on the right-hand earpiece, you will find this little jobby that's wide, okay? And in it is a volume up and volume down. So if the phone is connected to these headphones, then see if I can squeeze this in here. Okay, now here is my picture. Let me adjust the picture so that you know I'm taking a different one. And I'm going to squeeze the volume up. You saw it flash? That's the new picture. So I'm going to go down here to my picture here. And you can see that that's a different view. And this was the other view. Okay. Now, let's talk about when you might want to use things like this. One would be, let's say you're taking pictures of grandkids, and the minute you pull up your phone and you take, starting to aim at what they're doing, because they're doing something really cute, and you want to capture that in that time, they change their behavior. The minute they see a camera, they change their behavior. And so just go ahead and take the picture because that's what they think you want to do. But that really wasn't the picture you wanted. So just once you take the picture, they'll go back to doing what they were doing. And then is when you can use the headphone volume up, volume down, because otherwise they think you're listening to your music, and so they don't think you're paying any attention to them anymore, but you are, and you can just click off pictures. Now, the other time is when you can do street photography, and I know that a lot of you travel, and holding up a phone in front of your face to try to get a picture of somebody is just plain pretty obvious. And so holding up your phone in a more incognito kind of a way, maybe a little lower where you can see the screen still, but you're not being obvious that you're taking a picture. You can have maybe one earbud in so that it looks like you're listening to something, and you can even have the other one down and be clicking off pictures. Another time that this is useful is if you are doing studio portraits, because then you've got your phone on a tripod, you've got your subject, and I'm sure that you've all had your pictures taken by a professional at some point in time, even if it was only your high school graduation pictures. But the photographer usually carries on a conversation with you and is clicking off pictures as you have certain expressions and so forth. Well, this can be called a wired remote. And that way, when you're taking a picture, you're not touching your phone at all. So the focus is already set and so forth. So the next thing I would say is focus. And how many of you have taken the pictures and you looked at them afterwards and they weren't really sharp, like you had hoped they were going to be? Okay. Well, you can set the focus, but on cameras, all cameras automatically focus right square in the middle. And that's not exactly necessarily where you want them focused. You might want them focused in one of those rule of thirds. So if you touch the screen, and I'm going to touch it on the building back there. Okay, I just touched it right here. Wait. Okay, oh, I see, I didn't have the camera. If I touch the building, you notice that a yellow box showed up. Okay, that's where it's focused. If I focused on the plants down here, that's where it focuses. If I focus on these cars over here, that's where it focuses. Sorry, I don't have anything more interesting to show you out my window. So you've set the focus, but you can then also set the exposure. It sets the exposure for you. But if I set the focus and then I run my finger down the screen, notice that it's getting darker. If I run my finger up the screen, it gets lighter. So you don't have to accept the exposure that it sets right there. I can then darken it or lighten it.
So if I do this.
And so that's one of the aha things that sometimes people really want the exposure different, but didn't know how to get it. So sliding my finger down, it's just like sliding my finger down the screen or sliding my finger up the screen. Okay. Whoops, I didn't mean, I am sliding it too hard. Okay, I'm pulling it down more than I want. Okay.
his sunshine too.
I think it's quitting working on me for what. There we go. You notice that little line with a sunburst right there.
Right?
Okay, you don't have to hit that, but that's somewhere close to that is where it's going to be active. Okay, and that's one of the really neat things is being able to fix the exposure, change the exposure the way you want it. Okay. Let's see. Now, you notice that my camera has 3 lenses. And for some of you, I don't know where you are in the way of camera lenses and so forth. You may have 1, you may have 2, you may have 3. Okay. You'll notice that right here, I see where my lenses are. This one says 0.5, and that's called ultra wide angle, and I'll show you that in a minute. Then you have the 1x, which is the normal wide angle lens that Apple puts on. And this one is a 2x, and that is their version of telephoto. Now, all I have to do is touch one of those places and it will change the lens. So I'm going to touch the 2 and that zooms in. I'm going to go back to the 1 and then I'm going to go back to the ultra wide, back to it, and you can see the window frame and everything there. Okay. I'll just go back to the 1x, but that's how you change lenses. As a general rule, I don't recommend zooming in like you've taken the 2 fingers and unpinched them. These lenses are so good that you can do that a little bit, but I don't recommend it. This is going up to 4x, 6x. I can't tell you that that's going to be sharp. That says 18x. But then again, if you're in a situation where that's the only way to get that memory, might as well. And I have actually zoomed in occasionally and have been satisfied with the picture for printing in a book, which was what I wanted to use it for. But just know that it's probably not going to be the sharpest. Okay. Now, I'm sure that all of you have at some point in time touched that white button and held down on it too long. And something happened and it probably went and you ended up with 10 shots or something. That's called a burst. Now, on the 11, they moved the burst so that I have to hold down and slide it to the left. And so I don't know how many of you have 11s of some kind, but if I hold down that and move it to the, no, that went to video. No, that goes to video. Okay. There we go. There I got it to move. It took 3 or 4 pictures. For most of you that have the 10, this is my 10, holding the button down gives you a burst, okay? There are times when a burst is really, really good to get. So let's take, for example, some kind of an activity, animals motion, kids motion, where there's no way to time that particular shot. So you just start taking a burst that's before and a little bit after, and somewhere in that grouping of pictures, you might be able to get the actual one that was timed right, okay? And the other thing that's neat about the iPhone is that this little jobby right here, which is the timer. If you tap the timer, you get two choices, either a 3-second delay or a 10-second delay. Now, if you're going to use the timer, you obviously have to support your camera in some way. You've got to have it set so that nobody's touching it, okay? Then you set the timer and then you go get in the picture sometimes, okay? Now, instead of like a regular camera, which if you set it for the timer and then you go get in the picture and it goes click, and then you have to go set it again. The iPhone on the timer gives you 10, a burst of 10 shots, okay? And that way you can pick which one in that group has everybody's eyes open, mouth smiling, etc., etc. So that's just a unique feature of the burst of the timer that I'm going to turn off. Okay, don't want it on. So I think that that may be where I should stop right now. And I don't know, Jean, whether you take questions at this point or what we would like to do. Or Holly, would you like to add anything in? I'm just arbitrarily stopping right there.
No, that,
I think you've shown a lot, Grace. I think it's hard to get started, and if people followed along, or they can rewatch this on YouTube, so that'll be great. I think it's been just right. Thanks.
yeah, and I think what we'll do is in the future, a few weeks down the road, we're gonna try to have some full bore phone camera classes so that we do a class specifically on the iPhone, a class specifically on the Android phone, where people can ask some questions and figure some things out. What I suggest for everybody today is that you go play with it, go take some pictures, see what works, see what doesn't work. And then in a few weeks, keep watching the club's website and emails and everything. And we hopefully will twisted Grace's arm into doing a full-fledged class. And I will try and do one, and we'll see if we can answer your questions regarding some of the things you tried that worked or didn't work. Right now, we've given you the theoretical stuff, and now it's time to go out and practice a little bit and play around with it and see what happens. I think that's the easy thing to do. Now, what I'd like to do next, if nobody minds, is I'm going to do exactly the same thing for the Android people, but I'm going to cheat. Grace was able to plug her iPhone right into the computer and show you the screen share, and I can't quite do that. So I simply recorded it ahead of time, and I am going to make a quick attempt here to figure this out for you in 1 second. Excuse me while I find where I've placed my videos, and we'll go from there.
Hola, Patty.
Uh-oh, somebody, oh, there we go. We're gonna, all right. Excuse me 1 second, and we're good to go. All right, now we can screen share, and hopefully this will work. Ah, there it is. And you get to watch me again. What I'm trying to do is we're going to make up a self-contained little class that you can simply download and have a complete class on using your Android phone as a camera that you can play over and over again anytime you want to see it. This video is my first attempt to put together some information. So let's play it. We've got about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and we'll go from there. Hi, I'm Gene Kamarmi, and I'm the educational chairperson for the Green Valley Recreation Camera Club. I am the person who schedules and designs a lot of the classes that are used by the Green Valley Recreation Camera Club. We are one of the largest camera clubs in the country with almost 1,000 members. I get a lot of requests from members to have a class on using your Android phone as a camera. And I thought, oh, that's simple. I'll go to my repository of all known knowledge, YouTube, and I will find a video that shows people how to use their Android phone as a camera.
Just.
Well, I was not successful. I found several videos. A few of them were poorly planned and would be difficult to follow, and several were given by people whose native language was not English, and they were very difficult to understand. And there was really limited pedagogical skills shown in any of the videos. I did find a couple of really nice videos on using your Android phone as a video camera, and they were well done. But what I was looking for wasn't there. So I decided to put together a short video that would show people how to use their Android phone as a camera. And quite honestly, I immediately found out that the camera that came with my Android phone was a bit limited, but we were able to find a pretty decent replacement for it that will allow the members to use their phones pretty much like they were a DSLR. So I'm going to get started now and show you how you can use your Android phone as a decent camera. The first thing that you'll want to do is to go to the Play Store and install Open Camera. It'll take a few minutes to install, and then once it's done, you will see this screen and click the green button to open the Open Camera program. When you first open the Open Camera program, you'll need to change a few settings. To change settings on Open Camera, go to the gear wheel at the top of the screen. In this case, you'll see it up on the left-hand side. Click the gear wheel, and now some of the camera control options will open up. Some of the basic ones don't need any attention at all from you. Leave the timer off. Leave face detection off. I would then immediately move down to photo settings. This is the part that we need to pay a little attention to before you start using the Open Camera program. Number one, image quality. The default value is 90%, but I want it set at 100. So move the little slider over to 100% and then click OK. The image format. This you want in JPEG. That is the most commonly used image format. And basically, unless you tell it otherwise, the camera will take pictures using the JPEG format. You can turn on RAW when needed or if you want to use it, but you want to make sure it's the standard DNG or RAW setting. Those are used by most editing programs. Save images for HDR mode. Don't bother turning that on at this time. HDR enhancement process, I haven't bothered with either. Make sure it's just set for smart. That's the default setting. You really don't need to know what these are at this time. Just make the settings and you'll be ready to shoot pictures. Exposure bracketing, choose 3. When making HDR pictures or when having problems, the camera will shoot 3 pictures. One that is exposed 1 f-stop below the recommended setting, one that's exposed right on, and one that's exposed one f-stop over the recommended setting, and then the three can be combined together. Panorama auto crop, you can turn it on. What that allows you to do when you take a panorama shot, the photos seem to line up perfectly. In the panorama images, don't save the originals. I had selected, because if I did panoramas and saved the originals, it usually ended up with a lot of pictures that I just didn't need. I have not mirrored the front camera mirror. It is not something that I need at this point. And then I scrolled all the way down to the bottom, and there's just a couple things that I wanted to check. I want to enable the fast HDR burst, and I want to allow photos while recording video. Now, we can also make a couple or other settings. Take a look at processing settings. I don't think there's anything we need to change there. Now, there is one thing, and it's the last thing you need to do. You're on photo settings and settings page, scroll down to where you see camera API. Make sure that that little button is checked, that you're using camera to API. It enables a lot of extra features on the Open Camera program that work well. Now, in addition to all of this, you're going to want to change the look and feel of the camera. So the next step is to look at the camera's interface. And that is under on-screen GUI. This is where you can change what you see on the screen. Now, these are my preferences. I would suggest you start with these, and then you can work your way through this. If you find you don't need something, you can turn it off. If you find you need other things, you can turn them on. Show the flash icon. I want that on. I want to know when the camera is going to use the flash. I did not turn the auto level icon on. That helps you keep your camera level with the horizon. People who do a lot of panoramas and a lot of scenic shots like to turn that on. I've never used the photo stamp icon. I've never used a custom stamp icon. I want it to show. I've never used a location icon. Show the raw icon. I want that to show up, because if I decide that I have some gorgeous picture, I'm standing over the Grand Canyon, for example, I can click the raw button and I can take that picture in raw for future editing. The white balance lock needs to be turned on, and the auto exposure lock needs to be turned on. You may not use them often, but they're good to have on the screen. You'll want to see the zoom slider control. It's a lot easier to zoom by moving the little slider than it is by expanding your fingers. The take photo icon allows you to have a little button on the screen that you press to take a picture. Show on-screen messages. If the camera is trying to give you a message, it will appear on the bottom of the screen. Make sure that's checked. The what's new dialog, I leave it on in case there are any upgrades to the program. It tells you. Now keep display on. If enabled, the screen won't switch off while the main camera user interface is open. I like to leave my screen on. I find it annoying when it shuts itself off and I have to turn it back on to take another picture. This does use more battery, but it's well worth it. And finally, force maximum brightness. It just makes the screen as bright as possible. This is especially helpful if you're outdoors. Once you've checked these, and once again, I'll give you a list in the notes. Check them all off. You're ready to take pictures. Notice now we're taking an extreme close-up. So I'll focus on the figurine, and then I'll push the shutter release, and we have a picture. In camera, you have to know where they're at and how to get them to your computer. You will find them by tapping the little colored windmill icon on your Android screen, and the pictures that you just took will appear. Here's a picture of our little statue in the snow. Once I have the picture open, I can click this little button to the left there with the three circles, dots connected. And when I do, it will now say, where do you want to share this picture? I can email it to somebody, but best yet, if you go down at the bottom, you can mail it to yourself, or you can click more and you can send it to several services. You can put it into Keep Notes. You can save it to your Google Drive. You can save it to Dropbox. And from any of those sources, you can then save it down to your computer. An even easier way to transfer the pictures from your phone to Google services and then your laptop is to set it up to do it automatically. When you click the little icon for pictures, that's that multicolored windmill, you will then see Google Photos up. On Google Photos, you can go up to the icon in the upper right hand corner and you can tell it that you want it to automatically back up your accounts. Go to Photos and Settings and then go to Backup and Sync and set this so it's backing up to your Gmail account. When you do that, you take a picture on your phone, it automatically goes to the little photo center here, and at the same time, it syncs up and goes to the one on your computer, and you don't have to do anything. Now, usually it waits until you're on a Wi-Fi service to do it, but take your time, be patient, the pictures will transfer over. And then from the Windows site, you can download them to any application on your computer. All right. Um, Now that was just an overwhelming amount of stuff that I just threw at you, but I also sent an email to everybody that has a complete list of all those settings for open camera. You could sit down and you could do them one at a time and check them off. And then basically the same thing we told all of the people who were doing the Android class experiment. I mean, the iPhone class, go and experiment. Shoot a couple dozen pictures. See what happens. See if you can get them over um, to use on your computer. Try everything out. See what works, what doesn't work. Make yourself a list if you have some problems. My thoughts right now is that I'd probably, over the next few weeks, like to set up a special interest group for people who are using Android phones as a camera, where we'd set up 4 or 5 meetings a week or 2 weeks apart, and people could get together and share some questions, some other activities, talk about what failed and what didn't fail, and help each other out. But the bottom line is, I'd really like to encourage you to use that open camera program. It's so much better than the program that came with your Android phone as the basic program. It just has so many other features. It almost makes your camera into um, a DSLR, as close as you can get. Somebody asked me if I ever use Snapseed. Yes, that's an editing program. I don't even want to start to talk about editing and what you can do with these photos. Um, I will mention a couple of quick things. All of these photos, once you save them, and they're either in JPEG or RAW, you can then import them into almost any editor. But there are some editors that just work on your camera. So in theory, you could do everything you wanted to do, including some basic editing, right in the camera. Personally, I have a tendency to take my photos and use them and drag them down, um, you know, and use them on an editor on my laptop. I'm just looking at the bottom. I see some people who did things in chat. Yeah, I did send you a message, so we'll see what happens. You got an email that's got all the settings for this. Um, I want to encourage you. There's a problem, um, and I think the problem is you'll figure it out as soon as you start using it. Um, Holding an iPhone or an Android phone while you take the picture is difficult at the best. The phone is small, my fingers are big, they often get in the way of the lens, the camera often shakes and jiggles, and I've found that a selfie stick put on and used as a handle works wonders. I can then hold the phone very steady, push to focus, and do all the good things and take some pictures. So you might want to consider a really inexpensive selfie stick. They come in handy. They also make a little, I don't know how to describe it. It's a square box like device cage. It's simply called a phone cage, and the phone sits inside of it and it allows you to add additional things like a microphone or a flash onto it. Some fun stuff to play with. But I think the first thing for you to do, go out and take some pictures. At the end of this class, we're gonna oh, look at these good questions I get. Does the open cam have a setting for blurring the background? Specifically, no. But yes, because if you pick an f-stop and you force it to pick an f-stop like F2 or 4, it will automatically blur the background. But geez, you guys want to give me all the technical questions. Anyway, that seems to be pretty much what's going on. Um, Jane says, I think most Android phones don't have enough memory to take too many pictures in RAW. See, I have a Moto uh, Android phone, and I was able to add an extra memory card in it, and I put like X number of gigahooters in there, and I have enough room for about 1,000 pictures even in RAW. So most Android phones allow you to put one of those little tiny micro expansion cards in it, and then you have tons of memory. Everything just can be saved to the card. But I have a tendency to transfer stuff off the phone absolutely as soon as possible. If I'm out taking a bunch of pictures, I run home, I make sure they've transferred over to my laptop, and then I clear them off the phone. It just keeps things down. And cleaning up your phone is a good idea. Anybody else? I'm just looking at questions to see. No, all right. Um, I'm gonna make sure we sent out an email to everybody, and it had a little list of all the settings. Go ahead and do all those settings and try some pictures. Somewhere you've gotten some good information today, and you ought to get some awful nice pictures. While you were watching that video, I just stuck 4 or 5 pictures in there, or half dozen that I had taken on the phone. And quite honestly, I'm very, very pleased. I will also say this while you're using your Android phone as a camera, and it's the same thing that Grace mentioned earlier with the iPhone. The quality of the videos is incredible. I can't tell the difference between video that I shoot on my Android phone and the stuff that I take on my Canon DSLR. The quality is just wonderful, especially in low light situations. I get really good quality. So with that in mind, I hope you've gotten something out of today's class. I'm going to let you all go, and we're going to see you next Monday. And next Monday, it's going to be a fun day. Linda Gregory is going next Monday. I said that wrong. Next Tuesday. It's going to be a really good, fun day. Linda Gregory is going to talk to you about composition. And all these cameras and all these settings will pale when you learn about composition. So be with us next week if you can. Hi, Linda. Um, this this video will be on YouTube probably by tomorrow. I've done this one a little bit differently. I've downloaded it and I want to edit through it and then put it up on YouTube a little bit.
Jean,
Yes.
can I make a little addition because
Sure.
you were talking about memory and Androids can go out and buy another SIM card and add memory. So for people who are thinking about buying an iPhone, know that you cannot add to
Oh.
the memory on an iPhone. You've got to buy the biggest you can possibly afford because you can't add to it. And so the people who bought 16 gig iPhones are just kind of just out of luck. They keep having to take things off. And so I recommend, buy the most memory you can afford when you buy an iPhone because you can't up it later.
Oh, thank you. I was not aware of that. I'm glad to know. Yeah, that's
Jean, Jean, can
Yeah.
I mention?
Sure. Anything you want.
I have a Samsung Note 8 and it takes really good pictures. I did download your app and I put both cameras. Fortunately, one's red and one's blue, but I put them both next to each other. So I'm going to try a picture and compare the two. The one thing my Samsung will do, it gives me choices between all kinds of pro, food, panoramas, and all that. And if I do food, it blurs the background.
Oh, good. Yeah.
So like you could do a flower or something close up and your background would be blurred. The other thing I was going to mention, there is a new, and for people, I thought Linda said the other day that she went out and bought that new Galaxy Android, and in there you can't add a card, but you buy it and it has like a half a gig or a half of what do you call it, 500 gigabyte
Yeah.
of memory already, where I could only add to my Note 100 and I don't know if it's 25 or 135 gigabyte. So there isn't some of the phones will only allow you to put the little micro card of a certain size in it, a max. I put the max I could in.
Yeah.
Okay, just as an FYI.
Sure. Again, that's the reason I try and get my pictures off of my phone as soon as possible, is so I don't have to worry about many memory programs. If you're on the fly, by that I mean you're out working and I can't get to my computer to download stuff, I'm going to hold this up and hope it works. I have this beautiful little drive that I bought for like $15 on Amazon, and on one end it has the mini plug that goes in the Android phones. On the other end, a USB. And I can be sitting in my car, download all the pictures off of my phone onto this little drive, and then I can take it. And when I get home, put it in my computer and transfer the pictures over. They also make a version for the iPhone because
Yes,
a friend of mine has one. And they are real handy little devices. The problem with the Android phone is that its file system of where it stores and transfers files is really a pain in the butt. And you just have to experiment with it a little while and say a few words that your mother used to wash your mouth out with soap for, and then finally you'll figure it out. But the file system on an Android is not nearly as easy as it is on the iPhones. All right, anybody else got any questions? You can turn your mic on and chime in, but otherwise, I'm going to let you all go, and I'm going to tell you thank you, and we will get a copy of this up on YouTube. And I have to talk with a few people. We will work something out to get either a SIG or a special class going for both phones, if at all possible. Give it my best shot. As I told everybody in the newsletter, and God, if you haven't read that newsletter, get to it. But I told everybody in the newsletter, I'm sorry, we're not a community college. I can't just hire somebody to teach a class. We need volunteers. So if you have any urge to volunteer as a co-host or host for a special interest group on either one of the phones, let me know. Otherwise, thank you much. I'll see you next week.
Thank you.
All right. Bye,
Great,
everybody.
thank you.
All
I
right.
always learned something. Yay, Grace.
Did you? All right. Take care, everybody. Goodbye.
Goodbye.